Greetings, everybody. It's Jim. Hey, how do you make a wargaming collector go nuts? Well, we're about to find out because what I'm about to do is going to have one of three responses. The first being, oh my gosh, what are you doing? The second being, oh my gosh, mine's worth more now. And the third being, oh my gosh, that is the best thing you could have done to get the most value out of that great game. Personally, I think it's going to be number three for me, but we'll see what you think after I get done doing this. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about why you should be playing Starship Troopers, the old Avalon Hill version. So I'm glad to say that that was absolutely a mint condition copy of Starship Troopers I just cracked open. I mean, I might have to do a carbon dating test on the shrink wrap to see if it was actually from the 1980s, but I'm pretty sure I'm safe because everything inside was pristine, down to even the smell of what was inside the box. I haven't had a game that had that kind of original smell since my Dungeons & Dragons original hardcovers. Those pages had a distinct smell as well. I can tell the difference. Now, the thing is, the title of this video, as I already said, was why you should be playing Starship Troopers, but I really think I should have renamed it to why you need an excuse to play Starship Troopers, because it looks like I'm preaching to the choir. So many people already have the game, I'm sure, that I'm talking to right now. I mean, if you want to do some clickbait on social media, just show a box of Starship Troopers and just watch everybody start typing, because that's what happened. Holy cow, it was a crazy amount of response on it. But I'm not surprised by it, because this is some people's first war game as a kid. Why not just regular war games from World War II? Well, mainly because of the science fiction aspect. When everybody's younger, you know, fantasy, science fiction, more than reality is the usual way it goes. Working for some war game companies, I know that the demographic, once it hits 35 years old, is when you start getting into the more realistic war games. And sometimes even more later in life. But anyway, this game, of course, is based off of the book by Robert Heinlein. Now, the thing is, my version of my version of Starship Troopers was the game. I never read the book as a kid, and so when the movie came out, it went over my head just like the game did when I was 13 years old. I couldn't understand the game much. It was too hard for me at 13. But when the movie came out, I took this at face value, and I thought it was enjoyable enough, but I didn't really think it was all that until I understood what it was really about and all the political satire that's actually in the book and what's really going on. So that was an interesting thing. Now, but of course, this is all about the game, and this is about why you should be playing Starship Troopers. So one of them is just the nostalgia factor and the uniqueness of the game, the way it feels. If they actually tried to redo this game, I mean, it'd be all right, but it would lose so much of uniqueness because something about the color palettes in 1970s, early 80s, it was very limited, of course, compared to what we have today. Everything's just too beautiful. Another example, because here's the rule book. If you've just seen the cover, but here's the rule book of Starship Troopers. I mean, there's just something about that forced art to be unique. And I'll just use Dungeons and Dragons as an example. Here's Errol Otis, a famed Dungeons and Dragons artist, and just the same thing about the colors and how they merge and stuff like that. And you look at Dungeons and Dragons artwork anymore. To me, it's just too damn pretty. It loses some of that unique weirdness. I want to be taken to another world. I don't want to stay on the one that I'm on, even if it is. You can show a dragon, but if it's too perfect, it's like looking at a movie that's in that super 4K HD or something like that looks so real that you don't feel like you're in another land. You're not outside of yourself. You're not getting that escapism. So that's one of the things that's really cool about the rule book. And speaking of which, here's a picture of on the back cover, almost not the back cover. I think it was inside back cover, but basically that little guy right there got me looking at it. It's just a clay figure. I know that. But when I was 13 years old, I'm doing double takes like, that real? What? I made me really look at it. Yes, I figured out it was not real, but it really made me look. Now, the game itself, the good thing about the game itself is just a great learning curve. I mean, there's 7 scenarios in all. You start with a real simple one. That you're against the humanoids, which are your basic, gray bald aliens, from Mars, basically almost. But it's a very basic scenario that you might see in any other war game. And the thing about it, that really gets me worried is because I wonder how many people played this as their first game, tried to get through it, and said, is that all it is? Not knowing that there's a lot more going on, because there's going to be a lot going on. Okay, in scenario 2, you get to go against the bugs, and that's when things really start getting interesting, of course. Mainly because, well, let's just look at the bugs control sheet here. This is the alien control pad, and there's all the boards right there all put together. But you track them, they're all underground, and they come out and they start, just like they do in the movies, right? They just come out of nowhere. But you're trying to track them as the Terran player, and this is really a lot of hide and go seek kind of stuff here. Very intricate as far as the game, and it takes a while to learn. So that's why they got 1 to 7 scenarios. And here's the last scenario: you got tons of squads, tons of aliens all around the place. You got nukes that you're going to blow up. I mean, all kinds of high explosive devices. It's just mayhem. But I can imagine trying to learn how to play the game if this was the only scenario. That would just bomb people out. So you need that learning curve. So I feel bad for anybody who played only the first scenario in this and never got to continue. Now here we have the Terran control sheet, which of course tracks the chain of command, but more importantly keeps track of the special weapons and equipment that any unit may hold. Okay, because when this is for like high explosives, nukes, and very important listening devices, because you got to hear where those bugs are coming from to get an edge, right? But the thing is, when units get wounded or killed in this game, they don't get removed from the board. They stay on the board, and if a healthy unit comes over, well, then they can swap out. Okay, so that's very important to the game. Now, when I was just taking a break to look at the rules a little bit more, I do want to go back over something about the scenarios and the basic learning curve that there is. When it comes to scenario 1, the rules are only 2 pages long. And I don't mean that the scenario is 2 pages long. I mean the rules up to that point to play your first game is only 2 pages long. It's nothing, okay? It's very easy to get your feet wet in this game. And every game builds on it. It's like 3 pages here, 4 pages here. No more than that, really. By the time you get to scenario 7, yeah, you've got like 16 pages that you've probably gone over, but it's done in such small increments that it's a beautiful thing. Also, by the time you get to the final scenario 7, where they add all the fun toys, well, it doesn't end there, because then they give you a chance to go back to scenario 1. They have an addendum where you go back to scenario 1 and they throw all the toys back in. So there is actually 13 scenarios in the game, not 7, and that's a really nice thing that I always liked about that game. So basically, guys, there's all kinds of reasons to get into Starship Troopers, from the nostalgia factor, but life's too short. You should just start playing again. If you got it on your shelf, crack it open, play it, spend $30, $90, I don't care. Just grab this game, and I'll see you next video.